Okay, so we're back doing some analysis of West End Blues, the Louis Armstrong version, and we're going to look at melody in this video, and we're specifically going to look at some problems with melodies in jazz, and then we're going to have a look at a little analysis of the main melody, and then we'll do some little revision questions right at the end. All right, so let's get into it. Now, problems with jazz melodies. The biggest problem is, for West End Blues, no one really knows what the melody is. Now, that sounds a bit of a strange thing to say, but it's not like Western art classical music where someone's written out the sheet music and you play it the same or similar every time. And there's not an official contemporary recording of the song where you have an official version of the song. What you have is an idea of the melody and then people playing it. And when they play it, they improvise it and they embellish it in the jazz style and they record it, and that's the version. So King Oliver first recorded it, but he doesn't even play the melody the same the first time and the second time within the one song. So you're like, well, what is the actual melody then? Because it's not even the same for him, and he's the one that wrote it. Louis Armstrong definitely does it different. Now, this is a problem across all jazz music where the actual melody and the actual chords of jazz songs aren't really known. So what happens? How do we get around this problem in jazz? What you could say is the proper way to do it is go and listen to as many recordings as you can and make your own version of that song. A little shortcut for you, though, is two things. They would be here. First off, we have singers who record the song. Now, singers recording jazz songs tend to be a kind of source for the real melody. Whether the original melody was done by like a musical theatre singer or a show tune kind of singer, or if a singer does it later on, a bit like West End Blues, because the singers have to put lyrics onto it, it really reduces the amount that they can vary the melody and make all their own improvisations. And so you get a bit of a cleaner melody and an easier version to follow and say, oh, this is the actual melody of this song. So vocalist is one thing to think about. The other thing is, to solve this problem, there's sort of this underground movement that happened since the beginning of jazz where people started writing down the music onto sheet music on a thing called fake sheets or fake books as a bit of a shortcut to knowing how the tunes go. And these all got photocopied around, and there was hundreds of them. They become fake books. It's now commercialised, known as real books. And they look like this bit of music that I've got here for you. It's a bit of a sketch of how the song should go. It's someone's interpretation of what they think the melody is, and everyone kind of agrees that's how it is. Now, if you were doing your own version of this song, of course, you would never play the melody as per the real book, because that's not how you do it. You've got to improvise it and embellish it and make it your own. So that's why they're fake books. That's why they're so-so. They're kind of useful, they're kind of not. So, these two sort of combinations help us work out the melodies. So to give you an idea of how this works, so this is a quick timeline for you. In 1928, King Oliver records West End Blues. Louis Armstrong does it straight away with a different melody, slightly different anyway, not hugely different, but some similar things. And then these three singers do it in the same year, really close together. And just a couple of key points about this is that this one, and this one, the melodies here are really, really, really similar. And Louis Armstrong's one, he gets a different colour. His is totally different. So something to think about. And these ones here, I drew behind my own head, also have the piano player Clarence Williams on them all. And he wrote the lyrics to it. So I don't know quite what's going on there, but he obviously loved the tune and he kept on recording it. So he recorded a bunch of versions with these different singers. And so what I've done is I've kind of made my own real book version of it. I thought I'll try and make my own official version. I listened to all the versions of the singers and of Louis Armstrong. And this is kind of what I came up with. I thought these are the common elements of the song. So what have I done? You can see here we've got our opening motif, which goes like this. The chord, what have we got? So that's that motif. I'd say those first three notes are the motif that happens throughout the whole song. And importantly, that these notes have, let's do a different colour. I've got the flattened third, then the third, and then the fifth. So the fifth is our key note throughout this melody. It hits the melody all the way through. Where are we? It's just banging on here, and then eventually resolves down here on the E flat. But the flattened third and then major third, this is a pivotal moment in music history and in jazz history, where we're putting the minor third and the major third together to get a sound, and that's this sound. It's the blues note. It's part of the blues scale, if we're going to say that. It's the history of blues. It's history of jazz. It influences music from then on. This blues note, the minor third, the major third, put together in one song. So that really is the melody, and I guess we could say we've got two things in the melody. We've got the motif, which I just said. Oh, my pen isn't working very well today. And then we've got call and response. I'll do call and response in a different colour. Call and response. So this part here, let's try and do it. Call, and then green, response. Oh, and then I've got a meaningful feeling, and I'm full of gin. There we go. And then we've got a call. Oh, that was ugly. And then response. And I guess you know that because if you tried to play either of the call or the response without either or, it sounds really weird, right? You get this, what's one of them? Oh. Do you know, like, I just didn't do the response that time, and you can hear it's like, whoa, that sounds a bit strange. So there's a definite call and response with a motif. So that's how I think I would analyse the main melody. Now, all of this is quite important, because if we try now to jump to this, so let me just quickly explain what's happening here. Where am I? The top here, this is Louis Armstrong. So Louis Armstrong, and then this here is my hybrid compilation, my fake book, the one that I made up. If you just listen to the Louis Armstrong, you're going to struggle to hear the call and response, because it just seems like it goes all over the place. And so now that I've given you that sort of framing, you can see that Louis Armstrong starts with the motif, plays the motif again here perfectly, and then finishes here, right? And then really from that point on, you get, I guess it's a call and response, but it's extended. So this part here, there's our call, and then Louis Armstrong does the response out here, and then again, he's sort of doing a call there, and then he's doing a response out there, or a fill. And those, you can see those parts are very extra. They're made up, improvised. We guess, I don't know, but yeah, some sort of improvisation there. So hopefully that helps you to frame that melody just a little bit better. As I said, it's a little bit confusing if you don't understand, or if you don't search for that original melody a little bit. Let's do a few little loose ends since we're talking about things. So Louis Armstrong style, you can see we've got a little bit up here, a little bit of chromaticism, which is kind of a Louis Armstrong thing. That's in the melody, but then you can see it happens here again. What's that one? That kind of sound there. You can see it again, a little bit of it there, little chromaticism. Chromatics definitely become a thing in jazz, joining things up with chromatics. So, you know, it's sort of starting here by Louis Armstrong, which is kind of the right thing. That's how jazz starts, with Louis Armstrong, so it makes a lot of sense. Some other little melody loose ends for you. If I get rid of this, well, like just before I get rid of that, too late. You can see down here, the melody kind of continues. So
Let's have a look. Oh yeah, okay, so you can see I'm sort of saying the melody was finishing here, but this part here, and I haven't written out this in my own fake book version, but in all the other versions, the melody continues for another 12 bars with this same melodic line that the trombone does. And again, in that, it squashes the third. So that there is the flattened third, then the major third. I can't write major third because it's just the third. Then back to the flattened third, then flattened major. And that's sort of sounding like this. So that I can't do it because it's bending, but it's going like... And then from that point on, pretty much everyone from here has their own version of how that stanza, I guess, ends. Everyone starts with that squashed flat third and major third, but then just go where you like after that. So I would say the melody is 2 stanzas, I think. Like it definitely is 2 times through. Like that part is definitely a melody. So yeah. And also it's playing a thing called the guide tones, which are the 3rd and 7th of the chord. So for E flat 7 it's playing the 3rd, and then for A flat 7 it's playing the 7th. Again, that's kind of a thing in jazz, guide tones. So that's that little part there. This is just to show or point out that this is the clarinet and scat solo of Louis Armstrong, and just to show that this is that motif coming back through again. Same flattened third motif. In call and response again, so a much more direct, an obvious call and response, maybe even imitation, you could say, would be maybe a better compositional device there. But yeah, something like that. So that's the motif coming through again. And then another little interesting point is the final chorus, final stanza, final chorus, final part of the blues, where the melody should appear. All we get is the motif, and then it just goes in its own complete direction. There's no restating of the melody at all, other than that tiny little motif, which is fine. Doesn't really need it. I say, like I'm the authority on it, but yeah. So that's just something to think about. All right, what have we got next? Some little revision questions or some concepts for you, maybe. What have I said? Outline Louis Armstrong's contribution to the development of jazz. Good question. Not related to this video, but, just doing some revision for you. Hopefully, you will remember his main contribution is... you could also say he's a statesman of jazz as well, or an ambassador of jazz, something along those lines. So those are those 2 things. You can find about those in another video. Describe the melody of West End blues. So I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If we're trying to define something, then you want to know what's it part of. So what is it part of? So it's part of the form. Here's what melody is. That's the definition. And what are its parts? Well, its parts are scales, phrases, what's it, intervals, rhythm, syncopation, that kind of stuff. And so then you would use those to form your answer. So form and phrases are great. So, you could say it's part of a 12-bar blues. The melody is part of a 12-bar blues. The scale that it uses is got a blues note in it, which is the flattened third. I wouldn't personally say an E-flat blues scale. It's not an E-flat blues scale. A quick diversion, but commonly it's thought that an E-flat blues scale goes with an E-flat 7 chord to make it sound jazzy or bluesy. It's not actually true. What goes better is the blues scale from the relative minor. So if we had E-flat 7, the relative minor is C blues scale. And the reason that goes significantly better is because you end up in the C blues scale, you get the flattened third and the major third in the C blues scale, and it gives you a slightly gentler sound. If I play that for you, it gives you this sound.
I give you the E flat blues, you don't get the major third, so you just get a darker. You just get this sound. That's not quite the right sound. It's a bit of a misconception. So it's kind of using a C blues scale with the minor and major third. You phrase that how you want, or you think you can best get marks. Don't take, something to think about. So it's got phrases, it's got call and response, it's got a motif, it's using this scale. That's how I'd answer that question. A better question might be, how did Louis Armstrong alter the melody of West End blues? I think that's a much more interesting question. And then you'd have to talk about, well, he's done some improvisation with chromatics, he's used some arpeggios, he's extended the call and response, you could say stuff like that. Okay, so that's a bit of a brief look at the melody of West End blues. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.